Good morning. I have a splinter and I've been trying to get it out of my hand. You see that? Right there. We're going to let people join. If you're catching the replay, ask you, just say so. You don't have to hashtag replay. Just say hey or something. Just let me know you're here. Oh, this hurts so bad. Just let me know you're here. I got a boo-boo. It hurts. Okay, this is my protein shake because this morning hasn't been normal. Good morning, everyone. I was going to show y'all real quick. Let me go find it. Oh, wait, that's the wrong thing. I don't know if I can. Kayla, can I do a picture? I think I can. Let me see if I can do this. I can't. I go to present. Hang on, y'all, while I figure this out. All right, let's see if I can do this. Hang on. I'm going to try to show y'all this picture. Share screen, video file, slides. I don't think I can. Dadgummit. Video. I don't want a video. I don't think I can share a picture. I need to have a meeting with StreamYard to tell them they need to fix that, and they need to fix when people call and your phone goes silent. It has to be saved as a video file. Okay, let me see if I can do that. I don't know how to do that. Okay. I'm going to show you here. So I had a photographer come and take pictures for me to send to y'all, for the people that send me their address. If you notice, Dee Dee's in the background with her udders, and Skipper has his tongue out like he's licking his lips. Is that not the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life? I'm so excited about this. And this photographer volunteered her services. Her name is Marcia. Isn't it cute? Can y'all see it? I'm trying to. There it is. Isn't it cute? So I have ordered about 150 pictures. They're going to be postcards. So I've ordered about 150 because I've gotten a bunch of addresses, and Sweet Julie Pappin is putting together a spreadsheet for me so that she's going to type out address labels so that I make it easy. So if you're wanting a postcard from Skipper, you need to send me your address. Okay, let's get started. All right, first of all, I've had workers in my house for 3 days. My house is destroyed. It sounds like there's hammering and sawing and all this stuff going on in my house. And then my father-in-law is here to help Shane finish the hay barn. So we have 4 people in the house and we have 1 bathroom. And the 1 bathroom is in my bedroom. And Larry, has had prostate cancer, so he uses the bathroom a lot. So I'm tired. And plus we've got She has not had her babies yet. She has moved herself to the barn. I don't know if she's in labor. I did not see the stanky leg go on. So I don't know her exact due date. I just know what the vet told me and what I saw and I wrote it down. So this morning I got up about, I don't know, 5:45, went out there. I couldn't find Shishi in the middle of the pasture. So I found her in the barn, which is a good thing. So then yesterday, in the middle of our field, no, it wasn't in the middle of the field trip. It was after the field trip. The new donkey, I'm not keeping him. I'm just keeping him temporarily until my neighbor gets her fence up. Well, the donkey started to breed Georgia Lee. And I thought, okay, Georgia Lee could possibly be pregnant. And I don't know if you've seen a donkey's dong, but it is like that long. And I thought in my head, this is going to be a disaster. So Kayla and I had to run out there, interrupt that, put him in the pig pen because that's the only place I had to separate him. It was a bit crazy yesterday. On top of Kayla and I had about 70 people here yesterday. And we have a field trip this morning with about 70 people. So Kayla and I have been huffing it. Okay. So if you see less posts or anything like that, it's because Kayla and I are killing ourselves, just to let you know. Just to let you know. All right. This morning's talk, this is only my second cup of coffee because I've had interruptions this morning. Today, I have talked about the red chair before, but someone asked me to speak on it. And I have to really think about the red chair. It is a dark place for me. Okay. So prior to Shane, I was married for 15 years. I'm going to set the platform of what my life was like. We lived in a gigantic house. It was 6,000 square feet. It was a huge house we lived in, okay? It was beautiful. It was absolutely the most gorgeous house I had ever seen in my life. Like everything we had real high ceilings, like 14-foot ceilings. We had 3 levels. Actually, it was 3.5 levels. It was just a beautiful house. It was probably, I would say probably my dream house. It was gorgeous. My marriage was terrible. It was just terrible. But you know how like when there's interruptions, like it gets better. So like when we bought the house, it got better and then it goes bad again. And a lot of the problems were not my ex-husband. A lot of the problems were me. I was a train wreck. He did have OCD, but I was not well. I was very sick. When I say I was sick, I worked a full-time job and taught aerobics, and many a times I was so sick that I would have to go on medical leave and stay in the bed. And it wasn't because of physical elements. It was all mental. Like I would get to the point where I would do really well and then I would just collapse and I could not function. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just knew I was depressed and I knew I needed a break. And I used to, back when I was younger, I would get like this, but I was too young to understand what was going on with me. And I would try to find something physically wrong with me because I didn't know how to say what was mentally wrong with me. So I would end up, my mom, when I was young, would end up taking me to the doctor. It was like, she's sick. Like she has MS. I would create these sicknesses in my head because I had so much pain. And I would think that I was dying. And that started happening when I was in high school. That's when the depression came on me. And when you're in high school, you don't know how to describe what's going on inside you because you're really not mature enough to understand. And so I would just say, I'm sick. My stomach hurts. My head hurts. Like I can't swallow or whatever would be going on with me. And I would end up like the doctors would try to figure out what was wrong with me. And sometimes they would say, I can't find anything wrong. And sometimes they would find something wrong. And the next thing I know, I'm having surgery. I've had so many surgeries, it is unbelievable because I didn't know how to describe what was wrong with me. Well, as I got older, it was not leaving me. And I really still, in my 20s and 30s, I really didn't know how to describe what was wrong with me. I just knew I didn't feel good. And so in 2000 in 2011, no, when I started getting help, my husband um my husband had gone to he was into motorcycles. We had Harleys. And so he had gone to Bike Week with all his little Harley friends. And we came back from Bike Week. He was different. He didn't even speak to me. And I knew something was wrong. And all of a sudden, he was hating me. And the next thing I know, he has left me. And I was like, what the heck has happened? I didn't know what had happened. And when he left me, he went and moved in with his dad. So here's me and my kids in this 6,000 square foot house. And I'm sitting here figuring, and when he left me, he just left. And I thought, how am I going to do this? How am I going to take care of my kids, this big old house? And I was in panic mode. And that was the moment when I tell you that I hit rock bottom. I hit rock bottom. And I had experienced losing my parents to death, and it did not hurt as bad as the pain that I felt when my husband left me. It was terrible. And I completely stopped eating. Completely. Because I found out he was having an affair with this really young girl. And she was so beautiful and she was so young and she had this beautiful skin. And I'm like, here I am, old and wrinkledy. And, she was like, I don't know, 15, 20 years younger than me. And I was like, I can't compete. Now I just went into starvation mode because, as women, when your husband leaves you, you're like, oh, I got to look my best. And we begin to go on this huge diet and we look like a rock star when our husbands leave us. You know what I'm saying? And even if women leave the men, the next thing you know, they're going on a diet and trying to get themselves straight, to win them back and all this stuff. Well, that's the mode I was in. I got so sick. I was a skeleton. I did not eat anything. And I can remember going to work and I could not function. I literally could not function. And so next thing I know, I'm in the hospital. And when I was in the hospital, I thought in my head, I've got children. I've got to get myself together. What is wrong with me? And it was just like, it was terrible. Well, I had this red chair in my house and it looked similar to the picture on my thumbnail. It had it was not solid red. It was all red, but it had material, like flowers and stuff on it. Well, prior to him leaving me, let's see. No, I'm trying to think for just a minute. I got so sick that I had to quit my job. I could not function. It was terrible. And I sat in this red chair 24/7. And I couldn't figure out how to get better. I couldn't figure out how to get off the red chair. Like and I can remember going, okay, because my doctor was like, okay, we've got to put some weight on you and you need to exercise. And I can remember my doctor telling me, I want you to start with 1 minute. And what I want you to do is walk around your house for 1 minute. And I can remember trying to do that. And I remember being so out of breath from walking in my house for 1 minute. Y'all see me today, right? But I can remember, and then he said, okay, the first week, you're going to do 1 minute a day walking in your house. And then the next week, you're going to do 2 minutes in your house. And that was so difficult for me. I remember being so out of breath. And here's this girl that was a aerobic instructor. Okay. Like my heart is fit. Okay. And I mean, I ran marathons. Okay. I was pretty fit. Okay. And I couldn't even walk in my house for 1 minute without just gasping for breath. That's how sick I was. And I remember sitting in that red chair, and I remember because I ended up having to quit my job, and my husband ended up coming back to me. He left me in September, and he came back to me in January. I remember sitting in that chair going, Judy, you got to get up. Judy, you have got to do this 1 minute of exercise. I can remember trying to tell and I could not do it. I literally could not get out of the chair and walk in my house for 1 minute. It was like, it was almost as if I couldn't get my brain to work. I couldn't, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't get myself to do it. I wouldn't go anywhere. I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't talk to no one. I wouldn't eat. It was just a really bad time in my life. And I was sitting here thinking about the red chair because a lot of you have reached out to me and go, Judy, I can't get motivated to leave my house. Judy, I can't get motivated to get off the couch. And I'm like, and I'm thinking in my head, they think I don't understand. They think because you see me today, you think, oh, Judy doesn't understand. She's got a farm. She goes 90 to nothing. Oh, yes, I do, honey. Oh, yes, I do understand. I have been there. I know what it's like to not be able to force yourself off the couch. I did it for years. I didn't do it for a couple of weeks or months. I did it for years. And I sat there on that couch going, or on that red chair going, you're such a loser, Judy. Now you're not working. You're such a loser, Judy. You're old. You're such a loser, Judy. You're fat. You're such a, like, I remember beating myself up because I could not find my way. Well, when my husband left and I ended up in the hospital, I knew I had to live. I was like, okay, Judy, you have two choices. You can die or you can live. Like, which one you going to do? You got to start eating. You've got to get yourself together. Like, you're going to die. And I told you guys that I ended up on dialysis. Okay. That's how sick I was. I ended up on freaking dialysis. So if you think that I don't understand not being able to get off the couch or not being able to leave your house, now you see your Aunt Judy has been there. And I started counseling and I couldn't get better. I couldn't. And so then, they put me on medication to try to help me. And I thought, it's kind of like you think, okay, well, if I get on this medication, it's going to make it all better. No, it ain't. I couldn't. We went through so many different medications. It is unbelievable. And I am on the right medication now. And medication is not the cure all. I'm here to tell you that right now. Go grab. Did you get your protein? Medication. I hated medication. It made me have side effects. I, I can remember having like hallucinations, and I was like, I hate this crap because I'm not a medicine taker. So, like, I hated it. And it wasn't until my doctor did this swab test, and I don't know what the test is called, but she swabbed the inside of my mouth to get my genetic makeup to figure out what medicine works with my chemistry, because what was happening to me is I was having serious side effects where, like, you thought I couldn't get off the couch. Well, I couldn't get off the couch at all. Like, I was a zombie when they were giving me medication. I'm like, I can't even function. I couldn't even get to counseling because I was so drugged up, and I'm like, I hate this. And so when she did the genetic makeup, I found out that I was a fast metabolizer. So, like, I don't need, like, if the normal dose is, like, let's say one pill, a 40 milligram pill, I can't take 40 milligrams because I'm a fast metabolizer. I have to take like 20. So I had to learn what my genetic makeup was to know what type of medication that I needed to be on to kind of help me get through this. And so the red chair and I were best friends. Okay, we were BFFs. I mean, we were BFFs, but it was also my enemy, because what I would do is I would get my kids up, get them ready for school. At this point, I wasn't working. So I got the kids up. I would get them ready for school. I would take them to school, and I would sit in the red chair all day long and not get up and try to force myself to eat and to get up and exercise. And it was not fun at all. I hated every second. I would literally cry like all day long. And then when the kids would get out of school, I would go wash my face so it didn't look like I was crying. And I would try to get myself together because I knew the kids were coming home. And I was a big fat faker. Like, I didn't really, even in front of my husband, I mean, he could tell that I wasn't right, but, like, I faked it. I'm a faker. I'm a closet depressor. Like, I'm one that's gonna laugh and make you laugh and all this stuff. And then when everyone leaves, I'm in the closet crying. I remind myself of Robin Williams because I say him all the time because he was a funny guy. And sometimes you think depression looks like crying and sitting on a red chair, and you think depression is someone that's sad all the time. And that is not true. That is not true. Because in the silence, I was a train wreck crying all the time. But the second someone come around me, I was good. And I knew how to play the system. And I knew how to pretend like everything was fine. And it wasn't fine. But when I started counseling was the day that my life totally changed. And I have to tell you, it took a minute to find the right counselor. I started counseling in 2010 with my counselor today. I have been with her for 14 years. Where I started making a change, it took me 5 years to figure out how to leave my husband. Because I didn't want to be divorced again. It was embarrassing. But I knew that I was sick because he wasn't the one for me. Let's just put it that way. And I was sad that he wasn't the one for me. I wanted to stay married. I wanted it to work. But see, the problem is the marriage was one-sided. I was putting in all the effort and the work. Oh, hang on. Let me let my dogs in. I hear you. Come on. I was I was the one who was getting on medication and going to counseling and trying to work, trying to exercise, getting myself together, why he didn't do anything to change, because he had some issues as well. He had severe OCD, and when I tell you it was severe, I mean we're combing carpet at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, like it was severe. It was really, really bad. And his family hated me. And I will tell you, I'm a very likable person. When people hate me, I don't really understand why. But his family did not like me at all. And no matter what I did, they did not like me. And I remember, like, I can remember I've talked about this, but the last Christmas that we were together, it was me and my 2 children, and it was my husband and his son. And I can remember sitting there at our house, and his family brought him and his son gifts while me and my kids sat there. And I knew at that point, because I can remember my kids would text me begging me to leave. And I would be like, it felt pressure, because I was like, they don't understand that marriages go through hard times. They don't understand what's going on. But actually, they did understand. They could see the big picture of what was happening to me. And those poor little kids were texting me going, please leave, Mom. Please leave. And it took me 5 years to get the strength up to leave. Well, I went from a 6,000 square foot house to moving me and my kids in this little bitty apartment. And that's the day my life started changing. I took the red chair with me. I did. I got like when we split everything up, I got the living room furniture and he got the bedroom furniture. But me and my kids moved into this apartment. And I was like, okay, I've got to support us now. It's just me and my income. I've got to get it together. It almost like forced me to get it together, because no longer could I sit on the couch and do nothing and cry all day because I didn't have a husband's income to help pay the bill. So it forced me to get it together. It's the best thing that happened to me. The second I left was the second I started healing, because no longer did I have to concentrate on trying to fix my marriage. Because for so long, I was trying to fix my marriage. I was trying to figure out how to stay. Where are you going? Oh, your doctor's appointment. Sorry. No longer did I have to sit here and try to go to counseling to try to fix him, because I was going to counseling going, I don't know what to do. He won't give me any attention. He won't talk to me. He comes home from work and he doesn't say anything to me. This little young girl is in his life still, and I'm trying to figure out how to save my marriage. I no longer had to do that anymore because he was gone. So it forced me to fix me. So the second I got out, I was able to concentrate on fixing the things I hated me. I lived in the closet for a long time. And I don't want to share the things that I used to do because it's straight up embarrassing. But I lived in the closet for a long time because I wasn't proud of my life, but it's the only thing that kept me going. And I was doing a lot of bad things. can't figure out how to get my hair working. I was doing a lot of things that were not healthy, especially like I do talk about the eating disorder and stuff like that. But there was so much more to the picture, okay? And there's a lot of things that I can't get my hair to work. There's a lot of things that I was doing that were unhealthy, and it was causing me to not feel good about myself because I was making stupid decisions. I was living in the moment. What, you know how like I'm trying to think of some things to relate to. Let me think of an example. You know how if you're like, let's say that you're trying to lose weight and you end up eating a cupcake and you're like, oh, it's like so good. And you're like, you can't stop. You know, that like you're living in the moment because the rush of the sugar just takes you to outer space, and you allow this cupcake to consume you because you're like, oh, it's so good. And then you find yourself wanting another one. And then the next night you're wanting another one. Or let's see, let me think of another example. Like you're miserable in your marriage and you find yourself stepping outside your marriage and it feels so good. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you have an affair, it's like a rush. It's like sneaky. It's like a feeling. Mm, it makes you feel young. It makes you, I don't know. It's not reality, but it's like a. I don't know if y'all have ever. Maybe some of you've had an affair before, and you can explain it. But like, you know, it's like it's exciting to sneak around, you know. And I'm sure for my husband, when this little girl was 20 years old, oh, how, look at me, I got a little young girl, you know, like, and she's cute as ever. And, you know, like, you know, it's a rush, but it's like you're living in the moment. Just like eating the cupcake, you're living in the moment. You're not thinking about your future. You're thinking about the moment. So it's like you get your adrenaline going and it's a rush. And it's a terrible let's see. It's leading to a dead end. But in the moment it feels so freaking good. It's exciting. You know, like even like when you're caught up in an affair, it's like you try to look good, you go buy your new clothes, you know, you want to eat right because you want to look good because it makes you feel good, you know, like, you know, if you've ever had a spouse that's had an affair, you can watch it. They start dying, you know, if it's a woman, they go get their hair done all the time, or they go get some lashes or a pedicure, or a man is going to the gym and working out and like losing weight, and it is a freaking dead end. If you're caught up in an affair right now, you better listen to your Aunt Judy because it is a dead end. A dead end. And if you're so miserable in your marriage and miserable with yourself, go to counseling. Do you hear me? And I can remember I've had an affair before. Okay. I'm not perfect. And I can remember that I can remember like feeling the excitement and stuff every time I was around him. And I can remember, like we would break up, like we would say, okay, we're going to stop this affair. And we both would sit there and bawl our eyes out. I love you so much. I can't believe we're going to have to break up, but it's not right. Like I can remember all that crap, and you get caught up in it and you can't figure out how to get out, and you can't tell your spouse because they're going to leave you. And you're just in a bunch of freaking, like, your brain is like this. It's like you're high, you're excited, but you go home depressed. You're all over the map. You're all over the map. I watched my husband do it and I watched me do it. So I have been on both sides of the equation. I have been the cheater and I have been cheated on. And you're living in the moment. It's like you think the grass is greener on the other side, and it is not. So when I got into the apartment and started working on myself was the moment I started getting better. I met Shane, and the great thing about Shane is because Shane lived 5 hours away from me. So it was almost like Shane and I were friends. We weren't really, like, I never saw him. You know, like we talked on the phone and stuff, but it was a perfect relationship because he was nowhere around me and I could concentrate on my children and myself. And I would see him like some on the weekends, but I needed to raise my kids. I didn't need it to be in a relationship. I just, I had been freshly out of a relationship. And the last thing I needed to do is jump back into a relationship. I needed to concentrate. I had one son that lived with me, and he was still in high school. And let's see, he was a sophomore in high school when we got divorced. And so I needed to fix me. I went to counseling 3 days a week for 2 years to fix me. But you know how when you go through a divorce, it forces, like, you get this. It's so silly, but we start fixing ourselves. We start losing weight, and you're like, and your husband or your wife's over there going, why didn't he do that? Or why didn't he do that when he was married to me? Why didn't he be the best version of, I don't know, Shane that he could be? Instead, he sat there and ate cupcakes and let himself go and sat on the freaking couch all the time. And then the second we get a divorce, he gets up and starts going to the gym and starts losing weight. But he didn't do that when we were married. It's because you get stuck. You get stuck in the red chair and you find yourself finding no motivation to get yourself out of the red chair because you're stuck. You're stuck in the stupid red chair. And no matter how hard you try to force yourself to lose weight or force yourself to gain weight or force yourself to walk in the circle of your house for 1 minute, you can't get off the red chair. You can't. And it's hard to explain if you've never been there. But I've been there. And I sat in that red chair for years trying to figure out how to get my life straight. And I could not. Okay, a pill will do it. Okay, well, let me try this. Let me try this. No, it forced me to change my whole entire life. It forced me to sell my house, get a divorce, go move into this little bitty apartment to get my butt in gear. Because I couldn't seem to do it when I was caught up in this marriage that wasn't working. And I feel like, I'm going to tell you where the marriage came from. I'm going to tell you, because this is where the affair came in, is I was married to my kid's father. Once again, miserable as crap. Literally hated my marriage, hated my life, because we were total opposites. I felt like he worked against me, not with me. It was horrible. So what did I do? Instead of getting out of the marriage, oh no, I go and find someone else and then get out of the marriage, which is my husband. I've been married a couple of times. I left my kid's father and went straight to Robbie. Like literally straight to Robbie. So it was a dead end. That's why I tell you, you think the grass is greener on the other side. And I have to tell you that my marriage with Robbie was perfect compared to my marriage with my kid's father. Robbie was perfect compared to my kid's father. And a lot of it was me. It wasn't necessarily, I mean, he did a lot wrong, but so did I. And so the marriage with Robbie never blossomed because it started out wrong. It started out all wrong, like completely wrong. It was a dead end from the time I met him. And again, we were married for 15 years. And I thought I loved him, but I was stuck on love was a feeling. Love is a commitment. Love is standing by your wife through thick and thin and not cheating on her. That is love. Love is not a feeling. And it took me getting older to realize that love was not a feeling. We want to feel all gushy inside. We want to feel all giddy, and she doesn't make me feel like that anymore. She's just let herself go. Love is sticking with your spouse. And if you've been married for a long time, you know what I'm talking about. Like, you go through hard times, but love is not the wonderful feeling of, oh, I'm so in love, like you're in high school. That is not love. That is not love. So really, I didn't love Robbie because I realized that it was a dead end from the time I met him. And once we moved into the apartment and I began to go to counseling 3 days a week, I got to the point where I craved counseling. And I can remember there was a couple of times that my doctor called in sick. And so they had to call me and go, hey, Judy, you don't have an appointment today. And I can remember going, oh, I needed it. I can remember being so upset that I couldn't go to counseling. I had to make a commitment to counseling. And I got to the point where I craved going to counseling because I craved getting better. I craved going, God, if I could just get back to exercising and feeling good about myself and, all these things. I need to be a good mother. That was my priority. My priority was being a mother. I was like, I've got to fix me because my kids, I'm the strong one in their life. I've got to fix me. And I did. Now, let me just tell you, in the middle of, right before I got a divorce, I went to California to rehab for my eating disorder and my depression. I had to, do you know how hard it was to my kids were probably, they were teenagers. They were probably 12 or 13 years old. I had to sit them down and go, Mom is sick. Mom is fixing to go away for 60 days. I've got to go get myself well. And my kids are looking at me because I'm a closet person, right? So my kids are looking at me going, what's wrong with you, Mom? Like, I don't see anything wrong with you. Like, why are you going? And I can remember my kids sitting there bawling their eyes out. I can remember them sitting there confused and bawling their eyes out because Mom was fixing to go on an airplane thousands of miles away. And I couldn't have you had to get privileges to talk on the phone. But that's how much I needed to get well. That's how committed I was to get well. Because I was like, I am a complete train wreck. I had, the only thing that kept me alive was my children. That is the only thing. The only thing. So again, when you guys text me and you say, I can't get off the couch, Judy, I can't dance. You think I don't understand, but I do. I get it. I totally get it. And what works for me may not work for you, but I will tell you what worked for me is counseling. And when I went to California, I ended up coming home because the dad that lives with me is my stepdad. My real dad was diagnosed with cancer and only had a couple of weeks to live. So I ended up leaving California early because my dad was passing away. And I made a commitment when I got home from California that I would continue counseling 3 days a week. And I did. That is one thing I was disciplined with, was I may not be able to exercise, I may not be able to eat right, but I'm going to make a commitment to go to counseling 3 days a week because my kids need me and I need me. And I did. And the more I went, for me, like when I went to California, it was all group therapy. It was like psychotherapy where you had to act out how you felt and you were in a group. And I was in a group with people, not just eating disorders, but I was in a group with people that had drug addiction. I was in there with people that had schizophrenia, people that had bipolar, people that just had depression. I was in this group and I can remember sitting in this group going, how did I end up here? How did I end up here? And I can remember like the people that had schizophrenia. I had never been around people with schizophrenia. So I didn't know what it was like. And I can remember being scared to death. Like if they would, this one girl, I can remember we were in group therapy and this one girl thinks there's a baby in her stomach and she is in the middle of the floor trying to push to have the baby out. And I can remember sitting there going, what the? Because she wasn't pregnant. She had schizophrenia. And there was a person in her head that was pregnant and she was having the baby. And I can remember sitting there going, I got to get out of here. Like, I don't belong here. Like, this is not what I signed up for. Like these people are straight up crazy. I am not like this. But then I had to realize that I was there for my own reason. But when you're around people with people with addiction, they were sitting there, there were people in addiction sitting there figuring out how to try to get drugs into the program. Like, it was awful. And I just sat there going, I'm not this bad. Like, I'm not this bad. This is not where I'm supposed to be. But it was where I was supposed to be because I was just like them. I was over here starving myself, and then I would get fat, skinny. I was making myself sick. I had depression. I was just like them. But see, I was sitting there thinking in my head that I was nothing like them because I wasn't laying on the floor trying to have a baby. I wasn't trying to sneak drugs in. But see, I did have my own drug. I did. And the second that you think that you're not like other people is the second that you have not stopped and broke things down to figure out you're just like them. It's just your drug is different from them. Or you may not have schizophrenia, but you're that person that's sitting on the couch that can't get off the couch. So in a way, you are just like them. You're struggling just like them. We're all there for the same reason, pretty much, and that's to get well. And the second you start judging other people and think that you're not like them is the second you haven't stopped, paused, and broke it down. Because when you break it down at the end of the day, we're all just alike. We're all just alike. What time is it? Okay. My eyes are watering like crazy. So I think I was trying to think when someone asked me to talk about the red chair, I was trying to think in my head what actually pushed me to get better. And I got to think about it a minute. What made me? I think it was my children. I really do. I think my children saved my life. Because you know how if you're a grandmother or you're a mother or you're a dad or you're a grandfather, like you live for them. You know what I mean? Like you're like, my grandkid is my everything. Like I am. You say you're like, my grandkid's gonna get what he wants. Or you know how you kind of live for your children. I don't care what age you are. I mean, I'm 53. Tomorrow's my birthday. I'll be 53 tomorrow, and I still live for my children. Like I would do anything for my children. I would. You know how we are as parents. And when you become a grandparent, it's the same way. You're like, oh, I thought my kids were great. Well, honey, when these grandkids came, my kids, you went out the door because my grandkids getting it every day. You know what I'm saying? You're like, and even if you don't have children or you don't have grandchildren, maybe it's your dog. Like my dogs are my everything. Like my animals are my everything. Like I would eat ramen noodles if my animals had to have surgery and I couldn't afford it. I would literally do whatever I had to do for my animals. It's like your animals are your children. It's the same to me. To me, my animals are just like my children. The way I feel about my animals is the exact the way I feel about my children. So if you do not have children, you get me when I talk about your animals. Like, can you sit here and think if something happened to you, what would your dog do or your cat or whatever? You're like, it'll scare the bejesus out of you if you think, what if what if we got in a car accident? Who would keep our dog would be devastated. It's the same exact thing. I feel exactly about my animals as I do my children. So, again, if you don't have children, you get me if you have animals. It's the same type feeling. Um but I have to just contribute to when I got out of, and I'm not telling y'all to go get a divorce, okay? So know that. Divorce was right for me because it was holding me back. I realized it. But I'm not telling you to go out and get a divorce. That's what you need to do to get better. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is at the end of the day, I realized I could not, no matter what I did, I could not fix my marriage. I could not. I sat for years and years and years. See, I started counseling in 2010 and I left in 2014 or 15. I can't remember. So it took me that long to get the nerve up to go, this ain't working. I can remember being scared going, am I going to be able to afford to do this? Can I take care of my kids by myself? You know what? At the end of the day, y'all know how this works because you're all adults, but does it not always work out? Like we sit and worry, like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to be able to afford to raise our children by ourselves? Or how are we going to be able to do this? It always works out. You know, it somehow, some way, it always works out. We sit and stress and worry about how we're going to do it, and it always works out. Now, how do you get out of the red chair? How do you how do you get yourself motivated to get out of the red chair? I think we're all different. think we're all different personally. So I don't have the answer to tell you how to get out of the red chair. The only thing I can do is tell you what worked for me. And I was, you know how you have to, like when we talk about people with addiction, you always say they got to hit rock bottom. And you think, like me, like my brother, he's got to hit rock bottom. And I'm like, dear Heavenly Father, please let him go to jail. Please, Lord, please just let him go to jail. And I think jail is his rock bottom. Well, guess what? Jail is not his rock bottom. And I'm like, what the, like, how much lower can he go? Like, because like a person who doesn't understand drug addiction, I think jail would be the ultimate. Oh God, it ain't. It's different for everyone. Rock bottom for jail may be rock bottom for me, but rock bottom for jail is not rock bottom for my brother. Like, what is rock bottom? And I think it's the same thing with you, is like, what is your rock bottom? You got to hate your life so much that you want to get better. And rock bottom is different for everyone. My rock bottom was, I'm about to die. Like I have abused my body so much that I'm about to die. I have got to get, and I'll tell you, when he had an affair with a 20-year-old, I'm talking about trigger my eating disorder. Oh, he kicked it in high gear. He kicked my eating disorder in high gear. So, like, you might think, well, rock bottom for Judy is her husband leaving her. Oh, no, that was not a rock bottom for me. That was a trigger. That just triggered me to starve myself. So, rock bottom for you, I don't know what that looks like. I don't even know, like, I've not had long conversations where I've known you for years and years and years. Like, I don't know what your rock bottom is. But the only thing that's going to work is to run after recovery. You have to run after, you have to hate your life so bad that you want to fix it. And you're like, well, Judy, I can't. That's the problem, Judy. I can't. I get you. I get you. That just means you're not at rock bottom. Once you hit rock bottom, there's only, you either die or you get better. Those are your choices. And that's where I was. I was like, I'm either going to die or I'm going to get better. My kids need their mom, so I better get better. What is it going to take for me to get better? I have no clue. But I know that I need help. And I'm going to go to counseling to try to get help. And I had to go dig up all my demons. And I can remember being pissed off at my family. It's their fault. Mom jacked me up. Dad jacked me up. Like I had to go through this whole grieving process to get better. I had to figure out why I do the things that I do. I had to figure out what my triggers are. I had to figure out how to put tools in my pocket. And does that mean that I am like 100% well? I have to wake up every day. Every day I wake up, I do not wake up in this really cheery mood. Hang on. I do not wake up great. I wake up every single morning a train wreck. I am not lying. I do. And I will tell you what helps me. You. Like a lot of times you guys send me private messages and you're like, oh, Judy, you helped me so much. Da, da, da. No, I don't think you realize how much you contribute to my well-being. You help me. Now, I still go to counseling a lot. I do. Because you can't work at yourself. You can't work on yourself when you're in crisis. When you're in crisis, you're in survival mode. You have to work on yourself when you're well. Because your brain, when you're in crisis, doesn't think the same way when your brain is in normal. So, like, if you're in the middle of a crisis, like, I don't know, something with your children or your husband or your wife or whatever, you can't work on you. You're in survival mode. You got to just survive to the next day. You have to work on you when you're well. When I talk about putting tools in your pocket, you have to do that when you're well. Because if you don't have the mental capacity to do it when you're in crisis. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? The tools I have to put in my pocket. Definitely the first one is pause. That's a tool. Break it down is a tool. Meditation is a tool. Keeping myself calm is a tool. Like when I'm in a situation where my brain is not like in the mornings when I get up and I'm not good. And I'm like, this sucks. Like, I'm not good. The tools I have to pull out of my pocket is my dancing shoes. That's a tool. I'm like, okay. Cause when, like today, what happens to me right before a field trip is I go into outer space, la la land. Oh my God. I hope the parents don't get stuck parking. I hope my animals act right. I hope like the kids have a good time. I hope my stereo works. I hope the microphone works. I hope Kayla doesn't get sick. Like all these things, like, oh my gosh. What? You worry about the stupidest things. I worry about the stupidest things, and it always works out. But I have to, when I get around people, it forces me to be okay. Because the last thing you want to do is a field trip with me up there crying over something stupid, right? Like I have to get it together. So like today, I'm like, I got to get it together because I got kids pulling in the driveway. I got to be the best version of Judy. What do I need to pull out of my pocket to figure out how to do this? And always after a field trip, I'm always exhausted. Yesterday, Kayla, let's just put it like this. Kayla went home yesterday and took a nap and woke up in her clothes at midnight. It was like, why am I in my clothes? Where am I at? We were so tired yesterday from the field trip because we had preschoolers and we have preschoolers again today. And our brains are going 90 to nothing. And Kayla and I are trying to ping off each other. So today we're going to try to do things a little different to try to have less anxiety for Kayla and I. Because we are constantly looking at animals, making sure everyone is good. Like yesterday, Dexter was trying to get to the other side of the pasture and people are standing in the walkway because they don't have a farm. They don't know that they don't need to stand in a walkway. Animals are trying to get through and Dexter weighs 1,800 pounds and he's going to plow you straight over. Or you don't stand in front of a barn where there's animals coming out because they're trying to get out of the barn. People don't know that. Well, that's Kayla and I are having to educate Get out of the way. Dexter's trying to get, you never block a. It's like crazy. Anyway, I hope that I said things that help you. I wished I had the perfect answer to tell every one of you across the board. Okay, to get out of the red chair, you need to do A, B, and C. But see, A, B, and C is different from every single one of you. What worked for me is not going to work for you. All I can tell you, the biggest tool that you need to put in your pocket is a sponsor or a counselor. Yeah. See? Even StreamYard's telling you that. You need counseling, and counseling is the biggest thing. A sponsor, what I mean by that is, yes. What I mean by a sponsor is my sponsor, I have been with for almost 3 years now. I was forced to go to Al-Anon. Not going to really talk about why, but I was forced to go to Al-Anon. And when you go to Al-Anon, you get a sponsor that helps you work the 12-step program. So when I can't get in touch with, like when I'm in a crisis, well, you can't call your doctor and go, hey, dude, I'm in crisis. Could you stop your appointment and talk to me? No, that doesn't happen with a counselor. So you need a backup person. It does not need to be your BFF. It does not, because you need a trained professional to guide you in the right direction. So my sponsor, I can call up and go, hey, I'm not doing well. I just had to pull over on the side of the road because I had a panic attack. And she'll go, okay, let's talk about it. What step are you in? I said, I'm in step 1. I can't control this and I don't know what to do. She was like, okay, in step 5, I need you to do resentment. I need you to write down everything you resent about this person. And we need to break this down. And then I revisit her in 2 days and go, okay, here's where I'm at. Like that is your best friend can't do that for you. You need someone out of the picture. You need a professional. I don't know if it's a preacher, a counselor at church, an Al-Anon sponsor. I don't know. A counselor, you need something. You need a counselor, and then you need a backup person when you're in crisis. And maybe your counselor can help you identify a person that you can talk to, because sometimes your best friend looks after your best interests. Like if you call griping about your husband, girl, you don't let him push you around like that. You need to take up for yourself. That's what your best friend's going to do to you. But see, what you need is not that. You need someone to point out other things that make you well. When they agree with you that your husband or your wife is a train wreck, that is not helping you. What helps you is going, okay, well, let's break this down. Let's break it down. Okay, your wife said this to you. What is she trying to say to you? Let's stop and look at the big picture. But if I was your best friend, I'm going to say, dude, she is a train. Do not let her talk to you about that. Oh my gosh. I cannot, she is awful. I cannot believe your wife just said that to you. That's what your best friend's going to do to you. They're going to agree with you. They're not going to help you look at the big picture because they love you, and they are going to probably agree with you. And when you're in the moment saying that, if you say, oh my gosh, let me tell you what my wife said to me. If they said to you, well, what did you say to her to make her be triggered? You're like, whose friend are you? I mean, are you going to side with her? And then all of a sudden you're pissed off at your best friend because your best friend said, what did you do to trigger your wife? You see what I'm saying? That's why you don't need your best friend. You need someone that understands the big picture. You need someone that can break it down to help you see the big picture. Because a lot of times Shane will say something to me, and then I can call my best friend and she agrees with everything that I say. And she like feeds to the fire. And she'll make me even more mad at Shane for saying it because she is protective of me. She doesn't break it down and say, okay, Shane said this to you. Well, let's break it down. Let's pause. Let's break it down and figure out what was he really trying to say. You need someone well and someone that's not your BFF to break it down to figure out what it is he or she was trying to say to you. That is dancing. When you and if you try to be that best friend that I'm talking about and go, well, let's break it down. Your best friend does not need that. Your best friend wants you to agree with her. She does not want you to sit here inside and make her look at the big picture. Your best friend does not want that. She doesn't. So don't try to play counselor. Don't. Let the trained professionals be counselor. All right, guys, I love you. I got to go out there and keep my eye on Shishi today and do a field trip and see if I can get these preschoolers to dance with me and so forth. My nose is running. I woke up with a snotty nose. All right, guys. It's Friday. You have choices. My biggest thing to telling you is you can sit it out or you can dance is run after recovery. Quit trying to fix your spouse. Quit trying to fix everybody around you. Dancing is fixing you. I love you guys. I will see you this weekend or sometime. I'll definitely see you Monday, but I'll try to pop in. You know how I do. See you later. Bye-bye.